As you travel along your journey as a blacksmith, you're going to find lots of reasons you need to make round rings for one project or another. Maybe it's a decorative door handle or door knocker. Maybe it's just a simple ring on a fireplace poker, or this is a skillet holder that goes for a campfire cooking set. Maybe you're making some ornamental project and you need 30 or 40 round rings that all match for some interlinking grill design. Or maybe you're actually making wagon wheels and you need iron tires for your wagon wheels that have to be perfectly round. There are lots of tools out there that can help you make round rings. The simplest, of course, is just the horn of your anvil. While simple and readily available, making rings over the horn is probably the most difficult way you can make a ring and requires the greatest level of skill. Now that's not bad, but what if I want to true that up a little bit and make it just a little bit more perfect? There's another tool similar to the horn of the anvil, and that is a cone mandrel. Cone mandrels have been made in all sorts of different sizes. I've got a couple that fit the hardy hole on the anvil, and I've got a big floor mandrel. Floor mandrels are a little hard to find, but I think there are a few still being made out there and available new. Now your tongs can get in the way forging a ring over a cone mandrel, which is why some cone mandrels have a little tong slot in them to give you just enough room for the nose of the tongs. Now if you don't have a cone mandrel, you can fabricate individual bending dies of specific diameters to suit whatever the projects you're working on are. These are useful for making small rings or even for making hooks or other shapes that don't need a full circle. For slightly larger rings, I keep an assortment of cutoffs from larger tubing or big pipe, and I just put these in the vise and use a pair of tongs, channel locks, vice grips, or bending fork to hold one end while I bend the other end. Perhaps the most useful class of tools for bending rings, and any other curve for that matter, are bending forks. These are something that you can make in the shop to fit whatever project you're working on. It's nice to have some that fit in the anvil. You'll need some that are handheld. But the simplest bending fork is just a U-shaped piece of bar of various diameters, various openings. I just keep a bunch of those hanging on the wall for whatever I might need them for, and they come in handy quite often. Now, a lot of this kind of work can be done cold. And there's nothing wrong with working cold so long as you can do a good job cold. Some things just have to be hot to make it work properly. But think about it a little bit. One of the things that makes for an even bend is an even heat. If you've got hot spots and cold spots, you're going to have trouble getting your bends even, trouble getting your rings even. And the most stable temperature is whatever the ambient temperature is in your shop. For me right now, it's about 50 degrees in here. So this piece of steel is 50 degrees. It's not going to change while I'm working on it. There's not a hot end and a cold end that's going to cause kinks or flat spots. So working some of this stuff cold is really a practical way to work. It's efficient. It has been said that anytime you can do the work cold, you're making money. Now most of these tools can be scaled up for larger rings as you get bigger and bigger. And you can also use a lot of these for edge bending. Edge bending, it's a lot harder. It doesn't want to bend on the edge. It wants to flop over and bend flat. So you spend a lot of time straightening it. Another tool I have that will both do some limited edge bending and bending on the flat is the fly press. This is a simple set of dies in the fly press, one of the first tools you'll want to make if you have a fly press. It can be used for bending, can be used for straightening. The outer supports can be moved in and out as you need. And if you're making a full ring that has to close, the fly press is going to be in the way. So you need a set of dies that will move the work out to the front of the fly press, and then you can go ahead and make closed rings using the fly press as a bender. Now there's one other tool for bending rings I have that probably most people don't need. It's one of the few tools that I have not gotten my money's worth out of in the blacksmith shop, and I probably would have been better off not buying it in the first place, and that is an actual ring roller. This would be very similar to an old wheelwright's tire bender that would have been used for making wagon wheels. This is much lighter, much more compact, and in a lot of ways probably better. But those old tools are awfully cool if you can locate one. And the ends need to be cleaned up, and this needs to be brought back in line. That's a pretty common problem. You can do that in a vise with a big bending fork. Now that ring roller also brings with it an important business lesson. If you're in the business of blacksmithing, if you're doing it as a hobby and you want a ring roller, just go right ahead and buy a ring roller. There's no reason not to. For me, that was to do a job that never materialized. This was something that was very specific. I needed to make a whole bunch of rings, like 12 to 14 inches diameter. And there was kind of a deadline on whatever project this particular architect or designer was working on. And it was just a matter of finalizing the details. So I went ahead and ordered the ring roller to make sure I had it. I think I might have even ordered materials so that I would have the materials on hand. And the check never came. I never got paid for it. Luckily, I never started doing the work. So a month and a half later, I called the office. I'd like to speak with so-and-so. Sorry, they don't work here anymore. And nobody there knew anything about this job that they were supposedly hiring me for that was all approved, was going to pay a couple $1,000s, I don't know. But at the time, it was a lot of money for me. So avoid the temptation to stock up on materials, tools, special equipment, whatever, for a job that has not at least seen a deposit. If they haven't written you a check for a deposit, don't believe they're going to actually get around to ordering this stuff. And they just have to understand, I need special equipment for this. It's going to take 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get that in. If you need this done in a month, there's no way I can do it. So you got to get that check written right away so I can get to work on this. Anyways, the math for making rings is really a piece of cake. No, that's not right. It's really a piece of pie because all you need is pie. No, not that kind of pie, mathematical pi. Pi being 3.14. So to find the circumference of the circle, you just need pi times the diameter of the circle, more or less. I say more or less because we're working in material that has a thickness. There's mass to this, it's not just a line. So let's say you've got 1/2 inch thick material here, 1/2 inch across there, and you want a circle that has a diameter of 12 inches, let's say. So inside, or an inside diameter, ID, 12 inches. So this is 1/2 inch thicker. Your outside diameter is going to be 13 inches, but what you want to measure is from the center point of your circle. So that's actually going to be 12.5 inches times pi, 39.25 inches would be the cut length for your bar for that circle. In ironwork, most of your stock dimensions are going to be taken from that center line, whether you're trying to figure out the length of a scroll or circle or what oval or whatever it is. Measuring off the center line will give you much better accuracy. So I hope that math makes sense. It's really a pretty simple concept, but if you have to, look it up online, make sure you got the formula right. So that's just a quick look at some different ways you might be able to bend round rings in your shop. The bending forks are also an excellent way of bending ovals, scrolls, anything that's got a little bit of a curve in it. The fly press is excellent for straightening materials out. If you got some sort of a salvaged bar you got that's just the right size, but you need it straight and this thing's kind of bent and twisted, you can do that. The fly press is a great way to do that. So most of these tools have lots of other use besides just bending around rings, except for the ring roller. And like I say, you probably don't need one of those in your shop unless you're doing lots of rings, especially larger diameter rings. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you would like to provide financial support for the videos here at Blacksmith Forge, you can do that through Patreon or through channel memberships. Channel members and Patreon patrons both receive early access to the videos. Channel members get this exact video a day or two early. Patreon patrons get a very similar video a day or two early, but because it's hosted off of YouTube, I can give them that video ad-free. And if there's any sponsorship in the video, I try to edit the sponsorship out. I do want to thank everyone for taking the time out of their day to watch the video. I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop. Make something, stay safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next video.